Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another episode of Mind Your Puckin' Business with your host, Jeffrey Krentzman.
Thank you, Dougie Sticks. Good morning.
Absolutely. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening to us from. Coming to you from the beautiful studios of Undefeated Media here in Bergen County, New Jersey. This is the Mind Your Puckin' Business podcast, brought to you, of course, by our good friends at the Bamboozle Project, who we were just talking about 20 seconds before we went on the air.
True.
We were just having a discussion about them. This is episode number 61 on the Spanish dial of the SAP feature. If you touch the button, it says Senta y Uno on the Spanish dial, and as the numbers get higher, the pronunciations get worse. This is what's going to happen here. It's only downhill from here, and you can send us any of your questions, and I'm going to emphasize this today for a reason.
Yeah.
You can send us your questions at any time at mypbshow@gmail.com. Today, for the first time in all 61 episodes, we are putting a massive emphasis on viewer questions that were submitted.
Nice.
Over the last 24 hours. We told people yesterday, if you ask us some questions, we'll make sure we answer them. We have a bunch of them, and we're going to give credit to each person that sent it in. I have their usernames that were sent in. We'll get to that in a little bit. And you can listen to us, as always, on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, and Facebook. So
we had one thing real quick. We are live. So if there is something that we're talking about, maybe we didn't explain it, just your question, you want a more in-depth answer, you can put questions in the comments section and we can answer those live as well.
That is true. And then with that, we don't even have time to prepare. We're like on the spot.
Yeah.
I can't cheat.
Yeah.
I can't cheat, right? So we will get to that. Also, we want to throw at the top of the show real quick something we mentioned last week, courtesy of our sponsor, the Bamboozle Project. You can go out there now and get some merchandise, Mind Your Puckin' Business. If you're watching on the video feed of the program, you will see the Mind Your Puckin' Business T-shirts that are available on the Bamboozle Project website. We encourage you to check it out. And not definitively, but been discussed, I think there may be some more merchandise coming other than shirts.
Winter hats, beanies, duffel bags, sneakers, you name it. We're slapping a logo on it.
You can equip your family in all 4 seasons with Mind Your Puckin' Business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gear. I mean, what is better than that? So
bathing suit would be tight.
There we go. But then you'd have to go in the pool, which is not my thing. So the Rangers finally end the road trip, the longest road trip of the season that put them in Las Vegas, Anaheim, Los Angeles, San Jose, and back on the East Coast in Philadelphia before returning to New York. So last week when we were on a little bit of a different schedule last week because of my travel schedule with my real job, we were on Wednesday last week. And going into Wednesday, the Rangers were 1-2 on this 5-game road trip. And I had said, look, you have a road trip so far where COVID has hit Artemi Panarin. It's knocked out your coach, Gerard Gallant, your all-star goalie, Igor Shesterkin, and others on the team have been hurt. So you're 1-2. If you could somehow even get to 2-3 and end the road trip with 2 wins and 3 losses with everything going on a different coast and time zone, you know what? You'd sign for it. You don't love it, but you'd sign for it. But the Rangers said, no. We've got bigger aspirations, and we're going to win the last 2 games, and that's exactly what they did, and finished with a very impressive 3-2 road trip. They won in San Jose. Igor Shesterkin got off so this is interesting. Igor Shesterkin on Thursday gets off COVID protocol. He clears whatever the NHL protocols are that you need to play. And the Rangers have a 10:30 Eastern time out in San Jose, 2,500 miles across the country. I just figured Gorgiev would play that game, but no, the Rangers fly him across the country, get him ready for the game, and what does he do? He has a 3-0 shutout. Very impressive.
Very impressive.
So the Rangers get to 2-2 on that road trip. Then they come back, and this was extraordinarily weird scheduling by the NHL. And this was not COVID related because this was scheduled in the schedule released back over the summer that they flew to Philadelphia to play a Saturday night game. They're in the third period. They go down 2-1. Now at this point, you've got to say to yourself, you're 2-2 on this road trip. You just want to go home. You've been gone a week and a half. The game has 10 minutes left, and you're down 2-1. They're not really, you know what? They're probably just going to, I don't want to say mail it in, but not give a massive effort here. What do the Rangers do? They tie the game on a goal by Philip Hedl, and then they score the game winner about a minute later in regulation and don't even go to overtime. So a very impressive 3-2 win. So the Rangers just continue to rock and roll here with very positive things going on all over the place. They now come home They will be home tomorrow night in what should be a very good game versus an original six franchise in Toronto Maple Leafs. They then go, and this is not getting a lot of press, but I bet you on Friday it will. They fly down to Carolina. Now, you would think that this game will get press, and it will, because both teams are playing so well and they're both really fighting for the top spot in the Metropolitan Division. But people are forgetting something, Dougie Sticks.
Were they forgetting?
This is Dougie. This is Tony DeAngelo's first game against the Rangers with his new team. So there'll be some hype for that. It would have more hype if it was in the Garden, which it will be later in the season. But so it's the return of Tony DeAngelo against the Rangers on Friday night, and then Saturday night home back to back against Arizona. So, and the Kings on Monday. So if I'm the Rangers right now, you're going to play Shesterkin tomorrow night on Wednesday. I'm assuming he's playing Friday night in Carolina. You're going to go Georgiev at home on a back-to-back versus Arizona, who's not playing well. And then you have the Kings on Monday. So, look, these are some winnable games. The Carolina game's going to be hard, but with Arizona and LA, I'm going to say it again. You got to win the games in this league. You need to win, because at the end of the season, every single point is going to matter. It's always that the team right above you finishes 1 or 2 points ahead of you, and the team below you is 1 or 2 points behind you. So every point matters. Get the points you need to get.
Like it.
Like it?
I like it a lot.
You're happy with your New York Rangers, Dougie Sticks?
Yeah, they're doing a lot better than we expected.
They are. Remember, Dan Rosen and I said it was important for this team to make the playoffs, and they're saying, you know what? No, we're going to try and have a parade down the Canyon of Heroes.
Yeah.
God willing. I tell you, it would be really fitting. Now, wouldn't this be fitting? If the year that I end my fantasy football curse, right, 5 months later, the Rangers win the cup, I would just retire. You know what? I'd just retire from fantasy football, retire from hockey, everything. Just be done.
Nice.
Close it up shop. I mean, what could be better, right? You've reached the pinnacle.
Yeah.
At the same time. Now, an exciting announcement here with the Mind Your Puckin' Business show. Next week, next Friday night, the 28th, the Rangers host the Minnesota Wild in what is a very special night, and one of the nights that if you tune into it, will be replayed on MSG Network for about 25 years. And the reason why is the Rangers are retiring Henrik Lundqvist's jersey, the great Henrik.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to do a special Henrik-themed episode next week.
Nice.
I haven't decided yet. We haven't decided yet on the guests or some ideas, but I can assure you next week there will be a Henrik Lundqvist theme to the episode.
Nice.
To get you ready for 3 nights later when Henrik Lundqvist's jersey is raised to the rafters.
I like it.
It is a very, very also hot ticket to get.
I bet.
If you are a Ranger, yes.
So you could probably flip those, right?
Probably.
You got season tickets.
I probably, or I could, yes. Or I will.
Yeah.
Either or. But remember, I have 10 tickets. So I don't even if I was going, and I'm not going to say if I'm going or not, but if I was going, I would not bring
the other 9.
Well, I'd have to go with someone, but some. All right, so we're going to get to viewer questions. And I apologize. I want to throw this out there. We do try. Someone mentioned this to me last week.
Mm-hmm.
We do try to get questions on the show. A lot of times when we have guests on here, where I don't want us to be on for like an hour. I don't think that's fair. The human attention span is not that deep to listen to us. So we don't really do a lot of viewer questions. However, today I have a chunk of them that were submitted by random people, and I have your names. We're going to answer them.
Let's do it.
Ready?
Absolutely.
So, okay. We're going to start here. Kyle Vongas said in, and I apologize if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Vongas, maybe? Kyle Vongas.
Maybe we do first name, last letter.
Name, first letter. You got it.
Kyle
right.
V.
Kyle V.
Yeah,
because I don't want to pronounce your name wrong and embarrass myself and you and your family. So he wants to know, what do you think Georgiev's value is right now? And if he's tradable, where would he go? So a couple weeks ago, our wonderful producer, B-Rock, did a video on our Instagram page of me talking about Alexander Georgiev when the world hated him and they wanted to send him down to Hartford. And I said he would be fine. And the reason I said he was going to be fine was because he was not getting a lot of work, right? As a backup goalie, he's playing once every 12 days or whatever it was. He needed more regular work. Well, wouldn't you know it, 2 days later, now I didn't know this was going to happen, Igor Shesterkin got hurt. So Georgiev now is elevated to the starter, and he's a starting goalie.
Yeah.
So he got regular work and was fantastic. So his value went skyrocketing, as we kind of suspected it would once he got regular work. So is Georgiev tradable? Yes. If you have a goalie who is a backup on your team, and he's clearly the backup, he's not better than Igor. You don't really, I mean, you want to have a good backup, but the value would be high for a team that's looking for a number one starter, which is what a team probably feels that they can get from him. So where would he go? So I went through last night when I saw this question, and I went through all teams and I tried to figure out where he could go.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a team is not going to make a trade for him if they're not in playoff contention. So we could take a bunch of teams that are clearly not destined for the playoffs and cross them out because they're not going to make a trade midseason for a starting goaltender. You don't need them.
Mm-hmm.
The Rangers are also, I found two spots that I thought would be maybe interesting for him, but will never happen. And that is Boston because, I mean, Tuukka Rask just came back. We don't know how he's going to be. He hasn't played in a long time. And they could Gorgiev would be better than the Swayman kid that they're playing. And Pittsburgh could maybe use him because they're not really sold on their goaltending situation. But the Rangers will never trade him to Pittsburgh in the division, and they wouldn't trade him to Boston either. So that knocks him out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then I went to the Western Conference, and I went through the playoff teams, okay? And I tried to say, all right, well, what teams here could use a goalie? Well, Nashville's goaltending situation is set. Calgary's goaltending situation is set. A lot of the teams, Vegas is set. So a lot of these teams were good until I got to San Jose, and that would be my spot. Now, here's where it's interesting. One of the other questions that got submitted yesterday was, do you think the Rangers, this was not one on the list, but I'm going to throw it out. It's not one that I'm including, but was, do you think the Rangers will make a run at Hurdle at the trade deadline from San Jose? Because supposedly he only has 3 teams he would approve a trade to because he has a no trade clause, and the Rangers are supposedly one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So now you think to yourself, okay, they could use a goaltending upgrade, Gorgiev. They want to move Tomas Hertl. He could come this way, come east from the West Coast. So San Jose would be interesting, but there is certainly value there. The other thing with Gorgiev that makes his trade value high is he has an extraordinarily friendly contract when it comes to the salary cap. I think it's like $2 million a year, which is, pennies to a guy like you, a big shot like you, Dougie Sticks. But it's also pennies to a NHL organization. So San Jose would be an interesting fit. I do think if they do trade him, though, it will not be to the Eastern Conference, as I said.
Do you think, considering his salary, it might be better just to keep him?
Well, that is true. But the question is going to happen is what happens when this contract is up, which I believe is over the summer.
Gotcha.
And if he's going to leave, because the Rangers are not going to pay him starter money, right? Because he's not the starter here. Do you try to get something back for him now versus letting him walk? And that will be a decision Chris Drury and the Rangers management will have to decide. Next question. I'm going to say the last name here because I can pronounce it. Can I do that?
Yeah.
And then the next one after this, I don't.
Absolutely.
So this is comes from Matt Rides, Rides. Well, it's spelled Rides, but I probably pronounced it wrong anyway. Mm-hmm. Do you trust Mika Zibanejad as your number 1 center? I'm going to answer this question with a question from our buddy Matt. Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
What other option do I have? The Rangers are not. There's no number 1 center coming here in a trade going forward. Now, the potential was, whether you wanted him or not, we know you didn't want him, Dougie Sticks, was Jack Eichel. But that ship has sailed as Jack Eichel now plays in Las Vegas for the Vegas Golden Knights. So do I trust him as a number 1 center? Well, first off, again, I have no choice because there's no number 1 center that's getting traded here, particularly midseason at all. So Mika Zibanejad is and we've seen this over the years with him, is a very streaky player. He happens to be at the moment playing really well. I like Mika Zibanejad. I think he could on another team be a number 2 center. But here, with what the Rangers have and their lack of talent, I guess, at the center position, is the number 1 center. I do trust him. He's had a very good chemistry this year with Chris Kreider on the left wing, which I think has helped him. I do trust him in those situations. He's been doing well, penalty killing for the Rangers as well. He's played very well. I will trust him in the playoffs. Again, I don't have another choice. But I'm fine. I do think if he's in one of his moods where he's playing well, he's great. And he'd easily be trusted as number 1 center. You just need to hope that come playoff time, let's pretend the Rangers are going to be there because they're certainly looking like they're going to be, unless the train goes off the tracks here. But if he can get us to the playoffs and he's playing well in May, he would be fine to trust as a number 1 center.
Nice. So I know we don't know yet because we have to wait to see where our standings are this season to reflect on where our draft picks are going to be. But do we have any nice trades or potential picks that we have from trades that we've made or from, terrible teams that we get their first round pick and they're going to be like the second pick because they have a terrible season?
So the Rangers at the moment don't have they did for a while where it's stockpiled in draft picks because part of what they did in the rebuild, the way they did it, was they would make trades of players that they didn't need for the moment,
Mhm.
and they built up with getting equity in the draft by getting a bunch of draft picks.
Yes.
So the Rangers are really deep in the farm system right now. We should also mention Braden Schneider in his NHL debut, his first game, who was a first-round pick last week in San Jose, who came up because the Rangers have been riddled with COVID, scored his first goal. So we should give some props to him.
Nice.
But no, they don't really have, to me, although there's this kid, Brendan Othman, I'm going to pronounce his name wrong, Othman, that the Rangers management is kind of high on. But there's nobody in the system that would be a contender to be a number one center, at least anytime soon. That job is Mika's, right? And he just re-signed the 8-year deal.
No, I'm saying like coming this draft.
No.
There any, so we're not looking for another center. What's the position we're looking for this coming draft?
Well, I think you're going to try and get a center, but I don't think you're going to do it in a draft mode because you got to wait a couple of years with draft picks. I think the Rangers are going to be in a win now mode, which they should be, and they're going to be trying to get a center that's playing currently.
So we're going to trade our backup goalie to get a center.
It's possible, but again, I'm pretty sure Igor Gorgiev's contract is up at the end of the season. So if you're going to trade him, it has to be in season. And then the question becomes this: if you're going to do that, which you can do, and you get into the playoffs with Igor Shesterkin, who's your backup? You want to go into the playoffs with Keith Kincaid as your backup goaltender? Or, I mean, you definitely don't want Adam Huska. But I don't know. Okay. Next question. I'm not going to pronounce the last name on this one because I'm going to get it wrong. So we're just going to say Jake S. Do they have what it takes to make a deep cup run, considering it seems like they are struggling versus good teams? That is a very good observation, and something I said a little while ago where it was, look, you've got to beat the teams in this league that you should be beating. The Rangers have done a good job beating up on the teams that they should win on. They have struggled versus some of the other top teams in the league. Colorado Avalanche comes to mind a couple weeks ago. They did not play well in Vegas last week. But at the same time, Jake, they did beat Florida at home when they were undefeated. They swept Tampa twice. They beat Boston up in Boston earlier in the year. The Islanders are obviously not a good team anymore, but they really only played Washington once. They haven't played Carolina until Friday. So do they have what it takes? It's a hard question. My heart wants to say yes, but I want to go back to really where the expectations were with this team, which is that they are young still. So I'm not sure that they have what it takes. Now, if Igor Shesterkin gets hot in the playoffs, they can beat anybody, right? So we're honoring Henrik Lundqvist next week, which is great, but it's reminiscence of Henrik Lundqvist back in 10 years ago. The guy gets hot in the playoff series, you're going to beat anybody. So they do have what it takes there, but they need Igor to play well, and they're going to need some secondary scoring. Alexis Lafreniere, Capo Caco, some of these other players that maybe are not putting the puck in as much as the Chris Kreiders of the world. If you're going to make a run, if you look back at previous Stanley Cup teams, in particular Tampa, and one of those players was Barclay Goodrow, who now is a Ranger, it's getting secondary scoring in the playoffs. It's not always going to be your number one guy, always. Look at Pittsburgh, and I hate Pittsburgh, but even when Pittsburgh won the Cup, it wasn't always Crosby, right? Like when Pittsburgh won the Cup, I guess it was 2017. And they beat Ottawa in Game 7 at home. I think it was in overtime. I think it was in double overtime, actually. It was Chris Kunitz, if I remember correctly, that scored the game-winning goal. It's not always your star. And for the Rangers, you're going to have to count on some really young players who have had no playoff experience, including Igor Shesterkin for that matter, and see how they do in the playoffs. So
it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
It'll be very interesting.
All right. Sent in Greg A. Not going to pronounce this last name because this one could be pronounced many different ways. Would you rather put Lafreniere or Cheadle on the second line right now? Who would you rather give the experience to? Philip Hedl is playing a little bit better. Alexis Lafreniere is playing okay as well. To me, my answer here would be Lafreniere because of the fact that he is long term. He's a much bigger piece of the long term puzzle. I'd rather let him have the experience, and also Philip Hedl, I think, needs to stay in the center position. So I would keep him there at least. That's where he should be playing. And Lafreniere is better. It can play the wing. So I would say put Lafreniere on the wing. What would you say, Dougie Sticks?
I like it. No, I need to get my Lafreniere jersey still. So
you do. If you're going to buy a jersey along with your MYPB shirt,
yes,
Lafreniere would be a good one to get because he's going to be here for a while. Yeah. You never want to get a guy like
Sam Donald.
I went right back. I as soon as I started saying it, I knew where we were going, Dougie Sticks. No, you don't want to get a jersey. That's the worst. You buy a jersey. So I back in I want to say it was like 2004, 2005. My buddies bought me a Santana Moss Jets jersey. I still have it. Really cool. And then I want like 2 or 3 weeks later, he was traded to the Redskins, or he signed with the Redskins or something, and he was gone. And then the jersey, which you love, right, it goes instantly to have no value.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
No value. Like you wear it at the game, people are like, why are you wearing that jersey?
It's weird. Like even now when I go to Ranger games and I see people in players that aren't there anymore. Or like, don't wear, and I have a Chris Drury jersey.
Yeah.
I like Chris Drury. He went to Boston University, which was my alma mater, and now he runs the hockey team that I love. But like, Chris Drury played on the team 10 years ago. We can update the jersey.
The only person you can get away with is Gretzky.
Yeah, right. Unless you're a bona fide great, Mario Lemieux.
Yeah.
Yes, that's okay. If you see a Ranger, but like you'll see, and I have a buddy of mine who loves this guy from the 90s, Alexei Kovalov. I still see Alexei Kovalov jerseys at the Garden all the time. Look, Kovalov was great. He won a cup here. But 30 years later, wasn't that good that you should be wearing his jersey in the game.
I'm telling you, I think the safe bet, your own name on the back, you're set.
Yeah, I'm not. See, I don't.
You're not down for that?
I'm not down with that at all. I'm not a fan of that. When people put their own name on their jersey, I just think that's weird.
I'm set. I don't have to get
do
a
what
jersey.
The Yankees do. Don't put a name on it, and then you're safe. Like I have an A-Rod jersey, but he's number 13, which was weird because it was like it's an unlucky number. But my wife, who loves Derek Jeter, I mean, she has a jersey. Now, granted, though, Jeter you can never use again because his number's going to retire. Yeah. But if you're a Yankee and you get like a number 12, for example, like Andy Phillips used to be, like you would have never gotten an Andy Phillips jersey. That number's not getting retired. You can just reuse it because it doesn't say Phillips.
For Yankees, you can get away with it, but I feel like if I was walking around with like a Jet or a Giant jersey with no name on the back, it looked like a bootleg, Kmart jersey.
Right, exactly. Off the clearance rack, $9.99.
Yeah, like the mistake rack.
And it wasn't your size, and then you had to shrink it in the wash 10 times to get it to fit. Yeah, we've all been there, Dougie Sticks. Thanks. So, all right, last question, and then we'll move on to the NFL. Where we are at in the season, do you feel confident that the Rangers can definitely get a Stanley Cup this year? Sent in by Frank. We're not pronouncing this last name at all. C. I don't. I mean, after
don't insult our viewers.
No, I'm not. I just don't know how to pronounce it. I don't want to embarrass it. All right. So let me put it to you this way, Frank.
Yes.
Am I confident they're going to win the Stanley Cup? Absolutely not. If the Rangers if the playoffs started today and the Rangers were the 1 seed, which I think is where they were when I checked last night, I would not be confident. The NHL playoffs are like the NCAA tournament, March Madness, which, by the way, we're going to do an MYPB March Madness tournament this year. And here's why. Upsets happen all the time. Goalies get hot. You have no idea what's going to happen. I would not be confident in this team winning the Stanley Cup until they were in the third period of the last clinching game in the Stanley Cup. I just wouldn't be. But I think here's your question, Frank, or here's what you're getting to, okay? They have certainly exceeded expectations here on January 18th. And if we go back 3 months and 6 days ago to October 12th, when the season started in Washington, and you said this is where this team would be on January 18th, none of us could sign the page fast enough to sign for that to be true, okay? There is a 3-week break coming up for the Olympics that they're not going to. They're going to have to make up games. COVID is still ravaging the league, and players are getting knocked out randomly. Am I confident? No. But can it happen? Sure. Right? Yeah. You just got to stay tuned. And the playoffs, look, I am biased. I like hockey, but this is not my hockey bias talking. The best sporting playoffs is the NHL playoffs. It's a 2-month tournament. Now, we're going to get into talk about the NFL playoffs in about 30 seconds, and I'll tell you that it was great this weekend. But the NHL playoffs is awesome. You want the Rangers to be a part of it, Frank, and then we can just ride the wave from there and see how far the wave will take us. And if it doesn't take us far, because this will be a message you'll hear from me 3 months from now. If it doesn't take us far in the Stanley Cup, this team is showing you that the window of opportunity, that term that I preached back in October, is going to be open for the next the next several years with this team.
Yeah, the time is now. Well, the time is now. Let's get it together.
The time is now.
You got the pieces.
So we'll see how the Rangers do in the next 4 games before we're back on next Tuesday. They have 3 home games and then 1 down in Carolina. And also we will, like I said, next week do something with Henrik Lundqvist. to pay tribute to the great
Nice.
Henrik Lundqvist, who probably maybe has been a little forgotten a little bit because of how good Igor Shesterkin has been. I have to say, and I feel bad saying that, but it's probably true. Moving on to the NFL. So NFL playoffs this past weekend. I actually want to say before we get into it, they did the wild card weekend, and they added, the extra game. So you had 6 games versus 4. You had the one last night. I like the fact that they added it was good, right? 6 playoff games are better than 4. I read somewhere on a post on ESPN yesterday about an article about, that it was better when it was 4 games versus 6. I don't know what planet you're living on. Who wants 4 playoff games when I can have 6?
Yeah. And then you're just taking one off for the because now we got 4 games next week.
Yeah, we have 4 this weekend, which we're going to get into.
So
now,
if we were back in the other way, we would have been down a game.
Yeah. Now
we would be down 4 teams.
Right. So instead of getting 4 and 4, we had 6 and 4. We gained 2 games this weekend, which to me was great. Now, granted, 4 of the 6 games, and we'll recap them in a minute, were not great games. They weren't close, but still, it was good to have extra games. So kicked off on Saturday, the Raiders and Bengals. I said last week with Paul Farrington, the one bet that I really loved last week was the Bengals minus 6.5 or 6, and they won by 7. So I was right to love it, but I wasn't maybe. But I got it. I got you your money if you listen to me. Joe Burrow and this team, this offense with Mixon and T. Higgins and Chase and even the tight end Moza who scored a touchdown the other day is so good. I mean, we're going to get into the preview in a minute, but if I'm Tennessee this weekend with Cincinnati coming to town, I'm not overly confident here at all. I don't want to say I'm not overly confident, but I'm a little concerned. We'll get to that in a minute. So congratulations to the Bengals for their first win. Did you see what their coach did, by the way? Zach Taylor, young coach in the league. Bengals' first playoff win in forever, probably since before you and I were born. Well, no, they went to the Super Bowl in '88 versus the Niners. So probably since then, he was leaving. They give out game balls. Coaches give out game balls in the locker room. He took a game ball on his way home to his house.
To himself?
No, he stopped at a neighborhood bar and gave it to the fans at the bar.
That's pretty cool.
Which was for the fans, which I thought was really cool. It was a great gesture by Zach Taylor. The next game Saturday night, which was the game that I was most juiced for, and I'm going to sure B-Rock over here doesn't want to talk about, you want to talk about just annihilation. B-Rock's leaving the studio. There he goes. He's out. Good thing you can't see him on camera as he departs. The Patriots getting blown out in Buffalo. So Paul Farrington and I have picked the Bills last week to get out of the AFC. There is some, the stock, the evidence to our pick has gone up because they were, I don't think they ever punted. I think they scored on every drive. Now the play of that game, I will say this, and this hasn't been talked about. It is 7-0 the Bills. The Patriots are kind of driving on their first drive, and they throw the ball in the end zone. And I forgot the corner's name who made this incredible interception, but it would have been a touchdown and tied 7-7, and it was intercepted, and this game was just never close. Matter of fact, Jess and my cable box in our bedroom went out, and we were kind of stoked for that game. We didn't even need to watch the second half. We didn't even care. So that game was over. The Eagles and the Bucs. So I said last week that the Bucs were going to cover this game, and my reasoning was right. The Bucs were going to put up points. You knew this. The Eagles offense cannot put up points, and they put up 15 points in garbage time at the end of the game. So congratulations to Tampa as they move on. The next game was
time out real quick. And that's the game. I'll put the bracket up here real quick. That's the game where, depending on who wins, is where they go into the bracket, correct? That's the new shift in the playoffs.
Well, they've always reseed. Yes. So there's reseeding, right? Yes. So now you have the 49ers will play in Lambeau Field, which we'll get to in a minute when we get into the next round. But the 49ers, look, if you're the Cowboys, are you ever going to
dude,
are you ever,
dude,
you got Mike McCarthy as your coach. Now, look, they made the right move finally 2 years ago in firing Jason Garrett. He was there way too long. I used to think that he had something over Jerry Jones that he couldn't fire him, but he finally gets rid of him. And Mike McCarthy is literally brought in for Sunday. That's why you hire Mike McCarthy. You're not hiring him for week, 3 games at home versus Atlanta.
Yeah.
You're hiring him to win a playoff game, win a home playoff game. San Francisco is good. They're not great.
Yeah.
And they just, and you know what? The score at the end was close. That game was never really close. Yeah. San Francisco was up 10-0 at the end of the first. It just never was close. And you never got the feeling throughout it. And I had the Cowboys -3, so I had it wrong. But you just kind of never really was in doubt that the 49ers were going to win that game.
And the sad part is the Cowboys are like number one in every stat in the NFC.
I don't know.
Like year yards, points, everything. Every stat they're number one. They have the most points of any team in the whole NFL.
Yeah, I said to Paul Farrington last week, and again, Ezekiel Elliott is incredibly either overrated or just inconsistent or a combination of both. I don't get it. On a game like that, again, this is a playoff game. Where were the receivers? I mean, other than the Amari Cooper touchdown, Prescott didn't do it. I mean, it's just they were terrible. And the Cowboys defense, from a fantasy football perspective, were one of the top defenses during the year. And they weren't supposed to be, but they were. They had the guy, and I can't forget his name, number 1, who had all those interceptions. It may have been Stephon Diggs. Trayvon Diggs. Yes. Trayvon Diggs, right?
Yeah.
Where is the defense?
Everybody. The whole team.
Brandon Ayuk, who sucked in fantasy for me, was like all over the place the other day. I don't know. If you're the Cowboys, you obviously pick up, you go into next year, you have this, you're not getting rid of Mike McCarthy. Dak Prescott's still your quarterback. Elliott's still your running back. But why are you going to sit there and expect it to be any different? Aren't we going to be at the same situation, W6, next year where we're talking about the Cowboys in the first round and they're probably out again?
Yeah, and I definitely agree. That's why they brought in McCarthy. I don't know if it was a McCarthy thing. I think the whole team as the whole didn't show.
I'm going to just throw something out there and then we'll move on to the next game because I don't really care for the Cowboys. And I don't hate them either. I'm impartial to them. But at what point, and you can't point the finger because he owns the team, but Jerry Jones, who's also the general manager, at what point do you sit there and say, look, all these years you've been the general manager and you can't get out of the first round? Maybe it's not the coach. Maybe it's time you sit there and you own the team. And you sit back and you say, let a GM run the team, and I can still oversee it from a CEO and presidential standpoint. But the Steelers and Kansas City game, I'm mad at myself for getting this game wrong because at the end of the day, you knew Kansas City was going to score points, and the Steelers couldn't keep up with it. But we do congratulate Big Ben on a good career in Pittsburgh. Doesn't sound like he's going to play again there for sure, and I don't know if he's going to play again around the league, but incredibly, he was an entertaining player to watch over the years. Big Ben, you never knew what you were going to get some weeks, but he was always he fit the Steeler mold well, black and gold, fight physical, kind of blue collar football, get in there and take the hit and get up. Ben Roethlisberger fit that, and he has 2 Super Bowl rings to back it up. So Kansas City moves on to the next round. The game last night was awful, and I know you're mad about it from a betting perspective. This game was similar to the Pats Bills game. It just was never close. It never was even in doubt.
From the kickoff, it was just a downhill.
They say in sports that playoff experience matters. Sean McVay had been in the playoffs before. He obviously went to the Super Bowl. He coached the winning team last night. Cliff Kingsbury at rookie debut, never been there. Kyler Murray, never been there. Played terrible. Congratulations to Matt Stafford on getting his first win too. I mean, that team, they've got Cam Akers. They've got obviously Cooper Kupp. They've got Odell Beckham Jr. They are a very lively 3 seed or a 4 seed. They are a lively 4 seed and one that actually sets up a really good game down in Tampa next Sunday. So moving on to the next round, why don't you put up the bracket for those of you who are following on the video feed? We'll put the up-to-date bracket. So we're going to start here, and that is with the Saturday game, Cincinnati at Tennessee. Tennessee is giving 3.5. This spread is probably accurate. Maybe it could go down to minus, maybe 2.5, 2. Look, Tennessee deserves to be the favorite here. However, can I say something? And I'm not trying to be rude. Let's look at the quarterbacks. Would you rather have Joe Burrow, your quarterback, on Saturday, or Ryan Tannehill?
Well, Ryan Tannehill's got more experience.
Is Derrick Henry playing, B-Rock? Do we know?
Probably. I think so.
But he hasn't played in months. So if I'm going on a Derrick Henry that hasn't played in months, or Joe Mixon who's had a good year, do I want A.J. Brown, or I can have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins? I don't know. I mean, the Tennessee offense is better for sure when I compare them. Defensively, maybe I'll give a little bit of an edge defensively to Tennessee. This is a very if I'm Tennessee as a 1 seed, this is not a matchup I want. And Joe Burrow, we know what he did at the end of the regular season. The offense couldn't be stopped in the first half the other day. I mean, they were moving the ball down the field all day pretty much on Vegas.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick I'm picking Cincinnati here. I really am. I mean, Tennessee has to be the favorite. They're home. They were the 1 seed. So I'm not going to get on the odds makers here, but I'm actually going to go Cincy on the money line on this one to get out of it for sure. They just were good. The next game, the Saturday night game, I guess if you're like a traditionalist of the NFL, you love this matchup, right? The 49ers up in Lambeau on a Saturday night playoff game. I mean, I guess it's a good matchup. The Packers are giving 6. I would expect the Packers here to win. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is playing really well. That offense and the way they get, what's his name, Devontae Adams involved. They even have the guy Lazard is a good wide receiver who always seems to be catching touchdowns. Aaron Jones. I mean, they're really loaded on offense in Green Bay. I'm not sure the 49ers can keep up with that. Garoppolo, though, look, the one thing you look at in this situation, I think Paul Farrington and I talked about this last week, is when you have to win in Lambeau and it's -10 wind chill, you need to have a quarterback that's equipped to do it. So we said last week Tom Brady would be. He did it last year and he played in Foxborough. I'm not sure Jimmy Garoppolo is the one to do that, even though he played a couple years in New England. But I'm taking the Packers here to get out of it.
Yeah.
The 6 points also, this would be a game that if I was betting on it, and we don't do picks here. I mean, I give you the picks, but we don't keep track for the playoffs. And if we did, by the way, last week, we would have been 3-3. So we would have split anyway. But I almost would take the Packers here because I would worry that the Packers are going to score early. And in the elements up there, the 49ers are going to have to score. And Elijah Mitchell is a good running back, and that's the Packers' defense weakness is the running game. But I don't know. I mean, trying to and Deebo Samuel's had a great year, but I don't know. In that elements, I think it may be hard for the 49ers to score. So I'm taking the Packers -6. So I'm going to pick on the Saturday games. I'm picking Cincinnati, and I'm picking Green Bay to advance. The Sunday games, by the way, and this is no disrespect to the Saturday games, are really good. I mean, like awesome. And you can see that reflected in the spread. The LA Rams go to Tampa, and the Bucks are a 3-point favorite, which is, I think they got it right here in terms of the spread. The Rams, offensively, as I said a minute ago, you got Stafford, you got Kupp, you got Sony Michel, you got Cam Akers. You've got a bunch of guys there that offensively are good. Their offense is better than the Bucks because remember the Bucks have injuries. Antonio Brown retired in the middle of the Jets game, if you remember a couple of weeks ago. Leonard Fournette is still out. Chris Godwin's out for the year with an ACL injury. So the Rams here can win this game. Tom Brady is going. I would think. See, here's the thing. When I look at this game, Tom Brady they'll put up 20 to 25 points probably. So then the question is, are the Rams capable of scoring more than that? The answer is yes.
Absolutely.
Right? So this game to me is a pick 'em. So the -3 is right because usually there's like a 3-point shift for a home team. So they're basically Vegas is kind of telling you that if this was a neutral site game, it would be almost a pick 'em. To me, I'm taking the Rams, and I know that is an upset. But
so what's the spread?
-3 for the Bucs.
-3 for the Bucs.
I'm taking the Rams here. I just think Sean McVay to get back to the Super Bowl after losing and blowing the lead a couple of years ago versus the Patriots. I think Stafford's on a mission. That offense is really good, and they still have Aaron Darnold. They're not a bad defense. I'm taking the Rams on that one.
Literally, I feel like the Bucs game and the Chiefs game are identical. Like you got the Bills and the Rams who are loaded, who if they come to play, like the Rams actually came to play for the first time this season, like as a unit for the first time. Von Miller,
Darnold,
Beckham,
Aaron Donald,
Aaron Donald. They came as a full squad, like, and the Bills are the same way. They're like a mirror.
Yeah.
Like if they come to play, they're just inconsistent. So you have like the consistency of the Chiefs and the Bucs, or you got the talent, the raw talent from the Bills and the Rams.
Yeah,
identical.
It is identical. They're and the spread reflects that. You're right. So that last game, I'm going to say something about the Bills Chiefs game because I think this is probably the best game of the weekend. It is unfortunate as a football fan, and I don't mean this as disrespect to Cincy or Tennessee. I would have almost rather this be the AFC Championship game than having to be in the divisional round because I think both those, the Bills and the Chiefs, are better. They're each better than Tennessee and Cincy.
Yeah.
So, but unfortunately, one of them has to go out. Now, the Chiefs opened as a 2.5, and it's still where they are as a 2.5-point favorite, which again means if you think about it, it was a neutral site. It would be almost a pick 'em. Remember, these teams played in Arrowhead Stadium earlier this year, and the Bills won going away. This is such a hard game. I mean, this is this is tough. This game. I think Josh Allen and the Bills are on a mission, and I'm going to go back to the Chiefs' struggles this year. They have not had the continuous high-powered offense that they normally had. Now, it came out last week versus Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh's not good defensively, and they did it to Pittsburgh in week 15 in the regular season also. The Bills can win this game. If it's cold in Kansas City, that fits right into the Bills' mantra. They just scored 47 points in basically a tundra up in Buffalo this past Saturday. I'm going to go with the Bills here. I really am. And you know what? It's hard in the playoffs. I've always found it hard to not take home teams, but I'm going to take 3 road teams this week. I'm taking Cincy to win. I'm taking the Packers to win, and I'm taking the Rams and the Bills to get road wins on Sunday, which would leave us, if I am right, with a AFC championship game of Cincy at Buffalo and the Rams at the Packers.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the Rams and the Bills, literally, if they come to play, they're the better teams than the Chiefs and the Bucks.
They are.
But the problem is they don't always come to play.
And the Bucks would be a better team if they all came to play, if everyone was healthy, but they're not.
Didn't retire.
Right.
And didn't run off the field.
Didn't run off the field on my fantasy football Super Bowl while I had him as my wide receiver. Yes. So, yeah, I mean, look, from a football fan perspective, if you're not a fan of these 8 teams, because if you're a fan of these 8 teams, you start to sweat, right? You're like nervous as can be. But if you're if you're just an outside football fan now, like you and I are, where our teams are out of it, Sunday, it is just really good football. And I hope, and again, I've said I'm rooting for the Bills in the playoffs. I mean, I'm not pretending I'm a Buffalo fan because I'm not. I'm saying I'm part of the mafia up there, but I am rooting for them. That game, the Bills and the Chiefs, is exactly. I mean, I would assume CBS has that game, and they're sending the A-list crew of Romo and Jim Nantz, because that game might as well be. It should be the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, that is the AFC Championship game. The Titans Bengals, and the Packers 49ers. Those games you could kind of like confidently pick a winner. The Chiefs Bills and the Bucks Rams. That's a tough Sunday pick.
It's a tough sell. B-Rock, what do you think? Cincy, Tennessee. Who do you like?
I like Cincinnati just because I think they're a more balanced team.
Yeah.
I think their receiving options are more consistent. Who knows how good Derrick Henry will be? It really is just up to Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry, right. And then you like the Packers Saturday night at home to get out of there? Ooh, look at that.
Wow.
A better team, but I really like Deebo Samuel.
Okay.
I'm a big Deebo guy, so I'm going to go with the Niners.
Okay. So B-Rock is taking both road teams on Saturday. Let's go to Sunday. Rams at the Bucks.
I'm going to take the Rams.
The Rams. Wow. We are. Okay. And then the Bills Chiefs.
Chiefs.
Okay. So B-Rock is going. B-Rock says it confidently, too. I like it.
Yeah.
So B-Rock is going 3 road teams up until the last game, and then he has the Chiefs advancing. So, look. Whatever it is this weekend, you just hope for some good games, and chances are you're going to get it.
Oh, yeah.
These 3. Because some of the games this past weekend, were just never.
Yeah. Close. I mean, 2 of them in particular, the Eagles game and the Cardinals game.
So, well, we will see. And we will tune in next week. We'll be doing some Henrik Lundqvist special. And then, believe it or not, kind of previewing the conference championships. As we say, we said this last year. We said it this year. I say it all the time. There is no sports season that goes as fast as the NFL.
True.
Like hockey, you think about it. You probably feel like we've been talking about hockey forever. We're only 3 months in. We're not even halfway through the regular season. Yeah. Obviously, baseball's like half a year until you get to the playoffs. But football, man, it's like the blink of an eye. It's gone. And then you're left on like Sundays in February when it's over. You're like, what am I doing? I got nothing to do. And you're watching, some terrible game. You're watching fencing or something like that, or volleyball. So that's a wrap for this week. Again, tune in next week. We will be doing some Henrik Lundqvist stuff. We probably will have some guests on the show, I'm assuming, next week as well. So you want to tune in for that. Questions at any time. As I promised you, we were going to do a lot of viewer questions today. We did. You can tune in, send them to mypbshow@gmail.com. Remember to check out the MYPB swag at Bamboozle Project. We're going to put that up on the video feed momentarily. There you go. There's the website.
If you use MYPB promo code, you get 25% off the brand new swag.
Yes. And that is actually, 25% off is legit. I mean, that's we're not sitting here saying we're going to save you $5. We give you free shipping or $7.
Yeah.
No, we're giving
You're
you 25
paying for the cost of the shirt.
Yeah.
We're not making money on this.
Yeah.
It's some
Yeah.
swag for you
I
guys.
tell you. So we thank the Bamboozle Project for that. Rangers, tune in. Bunch of home games coming up. Win the games you're supposed to win. Dougie Sticks, anything else from you?
No, great job today.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you guys listening as always, and we will be back with you next Tuesday. Thanks for listening.